New pod with Jordan Smyth. So we started doing BTS at the start of these episodes.
Shit, right.
Your first podcast. Here in Lighthouse, Bali. He's shitting himself. That's why we got a bottle of wine.
Yeah, I know.
You don't get this set up in London.
No, yeah.
Jordan Smyth on the Midnight Pod. Yeah, that's fine, honestly. On the Merlot, of course. Right then, fellas, another sponsor for the pod is probably something you're very familiar with. If you're in the e-commerce space, it's certainly something I am. It's Waveflyer. Cash flow is the biggest killer of any fast-growing e-com brand, as I, probably more than most, know very fucking well. Go and watch episode 1 if you haven't already. Waveflyer is an e-commerce funding partner. Essentially, they can front you the cash for a month or so worth of sales. You need a minimum of 6 months sales, a minimum of 20 grand a month, I believe, right now. If you've got a brand that you're super passionate about, you want to scale it quick, but cash is a problem, to invest in inventory, mainly marketing, overheads, team costs, whatever it is, you can get funded in as little as 2 to 3 days. It's literally that quick. No bullshit bank loans, no personal guarantees. I've worked with them personally in the past, took a 6-figure sum off them. Plenty of guys I know in my network and people that have been on the pod and run massively successful brands have also used them as a funding partner, because everyone knows at scale, cash flow is the biggest killer, even if you are profitable. If you think this could be a fit, potentially you could be a fit for them, then go click the link below, speak to the guys at Waveflyer. It's a referral link, so we get a little fee, you save a little bit as well. Support the pod, support your business. Cash is king, especially in this market. Let's fucking go. We're back with the Midnight Pod, episode 70, which feels like a milestone episode. We're also in the most fucking fancy studio I've ever recorded an episode in. We had about 6 people. The only people we didn't have was a fucking makeup artist, but it's nearly as good as that. We've got Jordan Smyth.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like been a long time coming.
Yeah,
We've known each other like what?
Since
I was trying to work it out. Since September 2017, I think.
I was 17 years old. It was my 18th birthday in Singapore.
Fuck.
So actually,
I always talk about that
it was
Singapore
2015.
trip.
I think it was 2015.
Nah, 2017.
So I'm 1998.
2017.
It was 2017?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
I always talk about this trip to Singapore.
I don't think so.
People say, like, how did you meet people? I say I went to Singapore, and it was that event, and that's where I met you.
And so many other people.
Who I met.
And so many other people as well.
And plenty of other people.
Yeah.
But we probably stayed in touch more since then.
That was the most connecting event, you know?
That was the start of everything.
It was.
For me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I met a lot of my best mates today at that event. It's crazy.
Tim, Eddie.
Vince.
Yeah.
Eddie I met in Vietnam. Tim, Vince, Tom. Who else was at that event? There was Steve and Evan Tan. Obviously, they were running it.
That was like early.
It was insane.
Early D2C.
Yeah.
It's actually like textbook shit looking back.
And I was 17 because it was my 18th birthday.
Yeah, it was your 18th. It was my 21st, I believe.
How old are you now?
27 now.
Oh, yeah.
You're exactly 3 years younger than me.
So it was 2015 because I'm 1998.
No, it wasn't 2015. It was 2017, 1000%.
Agree to disagree. We have to go back and look at photos. But
It's
anyway,
definitely 17.
it was a way back.
I've always said to people,
It was way back.
you were like a fucking econ prodigy at the time. Because you were
Dropshipping.
so young.
Yeah.
And you were doing crazy numbers dropshipping. And then your brother Harley, we're staying with in like 2 days' time as well, who I've not seen in like 3 fucking years.
Yeah.
He was also doing similar shit at like 14 years old,
Yeah.
I think.
We thought it was normal. We thought doing those numbers were normal. We started dropshipping obviously, and we got to the point where we were probably doing like 1 to 2K per day each, and then we met these 2 brothers online called Mac and Mike, and they were doing 20 to 30 to 40K per day, and we just saw that as the standard. So then we just worked our asses off, and both of us living in the same house, just like competing against each other with our own stores. Harley would stay up till 3 a.m. and then I'd be like, all right, I need to stay up till 3 a.m. He'll find a winning product. I'd be like, all right, I'm not fucking sleeping until I find a winning product. So there was this like internal competition, but we thought it was normal. But yeah, I remember coming out to Singapore and everyone was like super impressed with numbers that we were
still
pushing.
waiting for there to be like, I'm surprised there's not been a Vice documentary yet on the early days of dropshipping.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting like subculture of entrepreneurship.
So many people started
and there's
from
so many memes around it. And it's still going now. I thought it was dead. There's still people fucking dropshipping now. Like, I was just
it makes you think. You're like, fuck, did I stop?
People talking about dropshipping.
Yeah, did I stop too early? You're like, shit, I've kept on going.
But
No.
go back. So you're from New Zealand. Where in New Zealand?
Christchurch.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
so.
South Island.
I've never been. I think my cousin
yeah.
actually moved there.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
cool.
know
It's chill.
the earlier story. Go back to maybe childhood.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck do you get into that shit? Because 99.9% of people do not get into
especially in
crazy scale
Christchurch,
dropshipping.
for sure.
Yeah, especially at that age.
So we are from, my brother and I are from Christchurch. I guess I need to include him in part of the story, part of the come up. Probably at around the age of like 12 or 13, I think myself and also Harley as well, just because we were doing everything everything together at the time, we were kind of chasing this like idea of independence, and we wanted to find ways, I guess, to make money online. I don't know, like it was just something that just came into our life, and both of us just had this attention towards it from a really, really early age. So kind of as, you know, any like curious kid would at like 11 or 12, I started to go out and try to find a job. Obviously, I found a job at a thing called a dairy. It's like a convenience store in New Zealand. And I just kind of had standard like day-to-day jobs from about 12 to about 15. And then I think it was Christian Guzman on YouTube.
I used to watch that guy.
Actually, yeah, so many people used to watch him. He was a pretty big inspiration of mine when I was like super young, maybe like 14, 15 years old, because I think he was like mid-20s or early 20s. And he was starting his gym, he was starting his clothing brand. And I think just like watching that vlog content every day, that kind of like sparked something inside of me where I wanted to do something similar. So I started this like clothing brand called Olympus Wear. And I was like super, super young. Every person starts a clothing brand when they're like going into entrepreneurship, of course. I did. Yeah, who doesn't, right? Like everyone's like, oh, okay, I'll put a logo on a t-shirt and then everyone's going to flock to it and buy it. But then you realize once your friends and family stop buying, no one else is buying, you know? You're like, what the hell, what's going on? And that was super early. That was like 15 years old, maybe 14, 15 years old. That we started that, went through the process, got the logos done, printed it with a local place in Christchurch, built the website, had heaps of issues there, used WordPress at the time, you know, and just started to move in that direction. And then around the time of launch, we found something called Amazon FBA. And I think Ty Lopez was talking about it on a YouTube ad. He was talking about Amazon FBA. And the reason why that there kind of sparked so much interest was the idea that you don't need to market the products. Because at the same time that we found Amazon FBA, I was struggling with Olympus Wear, which was the clothing brand, because I didn't know how to market it. And I was like so confused. And there was this idea around Amazon FBA where you send pallets of inventory into Amazon from China. You look for products that have a, you know, decent sales ranking, but all of the competition has pretty low count reviews. You use specific strategies to like send out a heap of product, and then obviously, you know, engineer reviews on the listing, and then you'd win ranking on, you know, organic search terms for products. And that was a pretty simple, you know, process that I could follow, and I didn't feel like I had to like market and advertise the product. So I lent into that. And that was when I was about 15, 16. So, you know, after a year or so. And then, you know, there's been obviously a few other ventures since, actually straight after that, I think Amazon got shut down. I was selling sex toys actually in the sports and outdoors category, and on Amazon, and I wasn't allowed to be. Yeah, so
Gaming the system.
That was one of the products that had low competition, had a hot sales ranking, so it was selling well, and there were barely any reviews on the competition.
Were you dropshipping it though?
No. Amazon FBA. So buying pallets of inventory and then shipping them over to Amazon FBA and getting them, I guess, you know, working it into the FBA warehouses, and then obviously working on that listing and trying to gain ranking on that listing. But I got banned off Amazon from like a really, really early age. And then I realized, okay, now I do need to learn marketing, and I do need to kind of do something that I'm not just like building a business off the back of this platform that obviously overnight you can just get shut down. So then went into apparel and also print on demand as well, where I would contact Instagram pages, and this is still at the age of around 15. So I was just doing anything and everything. And I think that was kind of like, this is the general like topic of all of these businesses from, you know, 15 to 18 to 19. I was just doing anything and everything online to try to make good cash to become independent so I could pay for things myself. I don't know what it was. I think it was just like that fuel inside of you that you just want to be responsible for your own path, you know? So did a few different businesses alongside obviously Shopify and that whole idea about building a store online, and then obviously found dropshipping and went into that. And that was kind of, I can't remember. How did we find dropshipping? Probably a bunch of YouTubers, probably YouTubers and Facebook groups and the standardized ways that everyone found out about it.
Wasn't
the term was probably being used
back then. I think it was more Facebook groups. I remember being in one called Murray Edwards. Remember that guy? He's an Australian guy. Murray Edwards.
Murray Edwards.
7-figure something.
I don't know.
That was the group I remember.
I don't know.
And then Steve Leventan had one.
Yeah, they were
That's the
mastermind, they were big.
I guess you call it that we went to. Not mastermind.
I was never big on the groups.
E-commerce World Summit or something.
Yeah, the e-commerce summit. I was never big on the groups. I was never good at staying active on the groups and talking. Even today, like, you know, there's a group that I'm in called E-commerce Fuel, which is an incredible group of so many founders. There's like a subgroup in there for 8-figure plus businesses, and there's so much value being shared in there. Actually, my mentor Mehrtab, I met him in this group as well. And yeah, I just haven't been good on them, but I think it might have been something like that. Yeah. So anyway, I did dropshipping. That went quite well for like 2.5, 3 years.
When was this? Like 20? It was definitely 17 the event, by the way. So this would have been 2015, maybe 2 years prior.
Yeah. Because obviously you need to get to a certain point to be able to go to Singapore. I think before Singapore, I was at a mastermind in Greece, and that helped elevate the
with Dimitris Skydis.
Skydis. Yeah. I actually had a call with him the other day.
Very few people watching this will know who the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah. He's still in the game.
Yeah,
he's good. He's actually bought a restaurant in some random island in Greece, and he's managing that now. I had a call with him the other day. Just caught up.
Nice.
Yeah, he's cool. So did dropshipping for obviously a few years. Built a team of, and this is obviously like trying to clump all of these things that happen into like one 5 or 10 minute intro, right? But did dropshipping, built up a team of around like 20, 30 people based in Southeast Asia that would help me kind of run all the operations. One kind of thing that I focused on in those early days, and I still have a huge attention towards today, is systems and processes. And I really think that's kind of the biggest thing that's allowed me to like scale to high points, you know, within a lot of companies that I've kind of built, is just because I've looked at things and looked at certain systems and processes that need to run in the company and automated those, or tried to automate them, so then I could have more time to put towards, you know, other areas of the company that then you can help like scale, obviously. but yeah, that was definitely a ride going through those dropshipping days. And
how quickly did you find stuff working? 'Cause I think it's easy to forget that most people that get into that shit, especially when they're young, it just doesn't work and they give up and go back to school, uni, whatever it is.
I remember the exact time.
Wise? You never went to uni, right? Of course.
No, okay, so just high school.
Yeah.
I finished high school because my mum wanted me to finish high school. Harley didn't finish high school, and I think it was because I'm the first child. So like your mum and dad, like they want you to finish high school, you know, like they want that little box for them to tick just themselves. So actually, that's quite a funny story. I was in my last year of high school, things were going well. I think I was doing Amazon FBA, and this is when I was like starting to go into dropshipping as well. And I was making cash. Like I was making decent enough money, more than anyone in my year or in my school. You know, like I actually had to keep a lot of it a secret. You know, I didn't want to share all the money that I didn't want to share the money that I was making, obviously, with my friends at school. But I remember it was the last year of school and I had exams coming up. So I went to the teacher that helps disabled and special needs kids in their final exams to earn more credits so they can pass high school and then obviously be able to go to university. And I went to her and I sat down and I talked about all the things I'm doing. I talked about this business, I'm making this money. And I just told her that like, I don't want to do the exams. It's just going to take too much time away from me. I'm on this path right now.
She helps disabled kids?
She helps special needs kids to...
But are you that?
Huh? No. But that's her job. But I went to her as kind of like a teacher consultant almost. You know how sometimes they have those people inside of schools that are like there to consult students that are having a hard time. So I went to her and I told her the whole story, and I asked her what I could do, and she gave me 2 exams which would give me enough credits to pass the year without doing exams. So she gave me 2 assignments that would give me enough credits to pass the year without doing exams. So I did those. One of them was to interview my mum about her career, and another one was to build a CV. And then with those 2, I was able to pass the year, not do my exams, so I didn't have to study. So when I was in class in the final kind of few months of school, when everyone was studying for their final exams, I was just able to go on my laptop and just work and just, you know, try to work on my businesses, essentially. But so after that, never went to uni and just continued on the path that I was on, trying to find these online businesses that I could just grow and scale. And obviously dropshipping was like the biggest thing that I just sunk my teeth into the most during that period. Yeah.
How do you spend your time when you're fucking 17, 18, building a business? Was it literally just in your parents' house?
Yeah.
12, 15 hours.
So I still had 2 jobs at the time. I worked for a supplement company called Limitless Supplements, and I worked for Foodstuffs, which is the holding company of a lot of the supermarkets in New Zealand. And at Foodstuffs, you had to drive this jiffy around the warehouse, and you'd have this little, mic in.
Did you need that job? Or was that just to keep parents happy?
I needed them.
Job?
When I started making enough money, I quit them both, obviously. But obviously, like, that was a debate in our own house as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to mum and dad, I'm saying, like, hey, I'm thinking about quitting my jobs. They're like, no, just quit one. And I'm like, nah, I think I need to quit 2. And they're like, and then I think from that point onwards, I don't want to get off topic, but from that point onwards, my parents were just like, okay, we can't really tell this guy what to do anymore. Like, he just needs to go on his own path. And then from that point onwards, I don't remember any time that my parents have like tried to put something on me or really direct me in a certain way. So it's been quite beneficial, I think.
Your parents entrepreneurial at all? Like, where does this come from?
Yeah, not really.
A lot of people say there was like
I think there are sparks of it.
Someone or something that
my dad's a builder and my mum works HR in a hospital. But I think there are sparks of it.
Very similar to me, actually.
Yeah,
I didn't know
I think it's a couple combo that you see a lot,
Yeah.
And then their names are Kathy and Tony, which also is another couple combo that you hear a lot, Like I swear I've met like so many guys and their like parents are called Kathy and Tony. I'm
really?
Like, what the fuck?
There's probably some science behind that.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to what we were just saying. Going back to where?
You've quit uni.
Quit
got 2 jobs.
Oh yeah, sorry. So what was my day-to-day like? I was just hustling hard. When you're young, you've just got so much energy. Like, I would go to school, and this is obviously during the times that I had school, not school holidays. I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd probably drive out to like a supermarket and start to do some tastings for the protein company that I was with. And then I'd probably finish work about like 7 p.m. and I'd come home and I'd work till, 1 or 2 a.m. and then I'd get up for school and then go to school. But I was like working extremely hard on my job so I could actually have cash to fund the businesses that I was trying to grow. And then on the businesses as well. I think I was just using like every last bit of energy that I had and still trying to go to the gym, still trying to improve that pillar of physical health from such a young age as well. I think just like trying to, get at life in every way from a young age. And I think, and I definitely, used up, that energy, that like young kid energy that everyone has. Like, I think I used it up quite beneficially,
So in terms of
Quite
dropshipping, from when you, I guess, started to make it work to, well, I guess, like, how did that look in terms of scale? So when you started, how long did you spend at small scale? I know you were doing some crazy numbers when you were younger. I can't remember exactly, but how did that look over the next few years? And then we'll get on to what you've obviously done more recently. But
of course, yeah. I mean, I'd love to go back and like look at the numbers and look at the Shopify dashboard and see how it scaled. So I can't remember specifically, but it for sure was a few months of, $500 a day, $1,000 a day, finding a product, like, trying to scale some ads, like, failing on the scale and then coming back down to $0 a day. So there was like a few months of that, obviously, just small little fluctuations. But like I said before, when we met these 2 guys called Mac and Mike, who were brothers, and they were selling that poor black mask. Do you remember that? Yeah, they were selling that. We met them and they were doing like 30, 40K days. I think that there like really sparked this this vision for what I was doing that I realized like, oh, hey, I can push this far beyond the numbers that I'm currently doing. And I just think that from that point, because I saw someone else doing it, I then somehow engineered it in my own way. I think I was just simple in the way that I would scale products. I wouldn't steer to right or left from my given strategy that I was like focused on. And I focused on kind of the main thing, which was the product and the video and the creative, obviously. And I got really good at selling products within a 30-second video, like talking about the problem, focusing on the solution, showing the problem, providing the solution, and then talking about the unique selling points of that solution. That was like the area that I was focusing on the most. And I think, And I think because I just had this like standard scaling strategy within the ads that I was focused on, and I didn't, let that become too complicated.
Was this just a general store?
It was just a general store. Yeah.
General store. For anyone that doesn't know, that sells any product.
Yeah.
So the whole game is just to find something that can scale rather than obviously build a brand, which you've come on to obviously recently.
Exactly.
Well, not recently, past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I was in the general store space. It's funny because there is a shop called the General Store near where I live. And every time I walk past it, me and Fred always just fucking giggle because it's just reminiscent of OG dropshipping days.
I love that.
And you're running all the Facebook ads yourself?
Yep. Facebook ads.
I feel like that's the first skill that many online entrepreneurs just learn is, well, media buying, but more specifically, because most of us don't learn Google ads. I still to this day don't know how to run Google ads. But Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook for sure. That probably has to be the single-handedly most important skill that I've learnt in my business career, if you call it.
Yeah.
I think Facebook ads, for sure.
Because it teaches you the fundamentals of how to actually get eyeballs and start making money and then reinvest the money.
And everything else, like, you can figure out after. Like, obviously, I've made so many mistakes, scaling with acquisition, with Facebook ads, and then obviously, like, realizing there's all these problems on the back end, but you need to have customers to be able to realize a lot of those problems. Yeah. Especially when you're a young, like, kid and you haven't done this before and you're just going into this area as well, so I think that was the biggest thing. I mean, I've got a gym in New Zealand called 9 Round, and we won the fastest growing gym in the Southern Hemisphere for Lift Brands, which is the franchise that owns Snap Fitness and 9 Round, and we're up for like 3 or 4 awards this year as well. My business partner Jake, he's going to the event in a week or so to receive the awards.
I thought you sold out of that.
Haven't sold it out of it. No. So we're still running. We tried to sell, but COVID happened and the market died. No one wanted to buy a gym in New Zealand after COVID, because in New Zealand that was the first thing they shut down. So. But we won the fastest growing gym in the Southern Hemisphere, and it was purely because of just understanding Facebook ads and understanding the idea of building a funnel. Yeah. Right. That like no other gym, especially in New Zealand, was doing. So we were just able to scale that so fast. But yeah, I think that has to be like the biggest thing. That obviously that's bled into everything that I've done in the last like 4 years as well. And then just because I love the game, just like yourself, you then learn so many other areas of actually building a business. That's not just Facebook ads, and obviously now I don't run Facebook ads at all for my company, but and now like I'm really, really invested into learning like all of these other areas. But it definitely has to be like that first, you have to start this scrappy, don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Yeah, you can't hire an agency
in a bedroom, like literally.
Yeah, exactly.
And ads are the only way to get eyeballs and to get conversions, which brings you revenues. You can actually start building a business, and the rest comes later. And dropshippers certainly don't know that much about supply chain and finance planning, all the shit that we would talk about now, because it starts with marketing.
Exactly.
And it's like a fundamental skill base, and everything else comes later. So you spent a few years doing that. Obviously, we'll come on to your more recent thing. You run a skincare brand called Gleaming, but when I remember roughly when you started talking about wanting to build a brand, and I guess, and I've talked about this loads of times on the pod, I guess the fundamental distinction is long-term versus short-term. Dropshipping, cash flow gets you started. It's all about just making profit. You don't care even about what you're selling, really. But building a brand is way more creatively fulfilling. So it's a more valuable business long-term if you get it right. Yeah. When and why did you start to pivot towards that and out of dropshipping, and then obviously into the business you're still running, which is Gleaming, which has been going
I think I didn't like the idea of being like embarrassed by what I do with dropshipping, or having to hide it from people. Like we were both in the same industry and we became like really, really close mates.
General stores.
But still you're like, what's your store? And like, I'm not telling you. And what's your, and I don't think I liked that. It didn't feel
like dropshipping.
Yeah, it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like something that I was gonna continuously do for the rest of my life. I saw it as a period of time,
a platform to get started,
and I was just capitalizing on I was capitalizing, I guess, on the ad platforms allowing these sort of ads. I was capitalizing on Shopify allowing dropshipping businesses at the time, but I didn't see it as like a long-term thing. So I think like any person going into dropshipping, right? Like you always want to go into something that you can be proud of and you can put your name on, because I think that's the biggest thing that people struggle with.
I honestly think very few people do actually go into building legitimate brands. Even now, they'll say they own a brand and then they dig into brands. It and it's a dropshipping brand.
Yeah. No, of course not. No, it doesn't have all the other pillars of it. But sorry, I need to drink some water. haven't spoken like this in a long time, mate.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Yeah, I never talked this much. My voice is going to be gone by the end of this, eh? It's like a big night. But it's a podcast. Might turn into a big night, though. So what was I going on to? About starting to go into building a brand. So I think it just came from me wanting to be proud of something that I was doing. And I had this opportunity with a guy called Stefan from Christchurch. He was building a vitamin C skincare brand, or it was not exactly his brand. It was a brand that was set up, and it was essentially just drop shipping. Not drop shipping, we had a warehouse, but it was essentially reselling these products from China that were already under this, brand at the time. And it was selling vitamin C skincare. And that was kind of the first step in the brand direction that I took, where I was like selling something that had a consistent name across it, all of the other products. And then also that was kind of my first step in the space of skincare as well. And, during that time, I recognized that vitamin C is like a well-known ingredient that a lot of people already understand. There's not a lot of education needed around the ingredient because people know that it's good for their skin. And we were just able to quite easily, sell that brand, sell those products at around like maybe 100, 150K a month. Like wasn't massive scale, but we were able to do it, at a decent-ish level, But I
Had you gone
definitely
completely
wanted
cold turkey on dropshipping?
I kind of had.
Or did you
was
was there a transition?
I had.
Because I had a transition. I remember it.
No, I went cold turkey.
Late 2018.
Yeah, I went cold turkey. I had some problems with my account at the time, and
that's the end of every dropshipper. Ad account banned, payment processor banned.
Exactly.
It's done. It's a sign.
Classic. Yeah, that was a sign. Exactly. I was like, okay, this is time, and I'd done quite well. Like I had about a million liquid in the bank at like 19 years old. I was like, this is
USD
sick.
or NZD?
NZD, so like 600 USD.
Still crazy.
It was sick. Yeah. So I bought a property portfolio with 1.5 million in New Zealand.
Fuck, I remember all this.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go into that full time.
But I should have, no joking. But although they would have probably be worth quite a lot now. I bought 7 units in New Zealand, 2 pieces of land. I had plans to develop on the land. And then also I went into the gym. And after all of that, I had about, 400K left in
when
the
was
bank.
this? Like this would have been early 19?
This would have been...
Because I remember our US trip with Tim and Eddie, which to this day I fucking talk about. That was like, I'm good at timelines.
That was around the time that I was selling
like
the properties.
February, March 2019.
Yeah, that was when I was selling the properties.
Yeah.
And that's when I was starting up Gleaming, because I realized the opportunity that I have in front of me with Gleaming. And I needed to sell the properties. So I guess, sorry, just to like kind of try to summarize that all up. Dropshipping came to a hard stop. I got a ban. And then I realized I need to put my cash somewhere, you know? So I invested into a bunch of properties. I had 7 units into this little town in New Zealand called Invercargill. Super cheap properties, right? Like land with, what are those homes called that they're like...
Bungalow.
No, they're like, they are...
I remember you sending me a spreadsheet actually, saying I should do the same.
Huh?
We had a call about this.
Really?
Because I was in a relatively similar situation. It's funny. And it was around a similar time that I got into building brands, I guess, because the same shit happened to me. And I just thought, I think we both could have kept doing it. But I like to think I was destined for bigger things rather than being the guy that just fucking drop ships forever. Because even if I could have made £10 million doing that, which some probably can, just wouldn't have been able to sleep.
No, true.
It's just not admirable.
Yeah, you're right.
But I remember you sending me a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
About
we would have talked about it. We talked about a lot of things since then. They were pre-built homes. So they were the ones that kind of sit off the ground about like half a meter, and they're pre-built. They come on a huge truck. Maybe sometimes they're in pieces, and add it onto
So like a fancy caravan.
In a way, like they don't obviously have wheels or anything, but like they're essentially pre-built homes that people buy pre-made, and then they drop them onto pieces of land and live on them and plug them all up and everything, and they're good. So I bought 2 pieces of land, one with 4 of them on it, one with 3 of them on it, and then I had 2 other pieces of land that I was going to develop on. And then also I started the gym, and then that was kind of where I was parking my money. And then at that same time, I was trying to look into something to go into that I could really sink my teeth into and really grow and just put my all into for however many years, and see it through to the end, whatever that end means, essentially. Then at around 19 years old, which was 2021, I moved to Melbourne.
2017, surely. 2019.
2019.
You're not 22 now.
Huh? No, 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, 19 2 years ago?
Oh yeah, true. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know what was up
Your
with my
math is
then.
crazy tonight.
Usually I'm pretty good at math, eh?
Yeah.
You should see my spreadsheets. But so I moved to Melbourne around 19, and that was around the same time that I was like looking for something to really sink my teeth into, to grow. I think the brand that I was building, that was this like, or the brand that I was running, that was this Chinese-made vitamin C skincare brand. It was like treadling along. I bought my partner out of it. I was looking for a buyer for it, and I was just really looking for something to really sink my teeth into. So that's the whole business side of it. And then the other side of this whole story is to do with my own personal problems, actually. And that's
We're
why...
We're going to clip this to make you famous.
Yeah.
Make the story good. You can use this on Gleaming's website.
Okay, cool. So this is why I'm so passionate about skincare, right? Like a lot of people ask me like...
I think I asked you at the time.
Yeah, why are you running a skincare brand?
Guy going to skincare,
you know, like why?
Sus.
Yeah, why are you so passionate about it? You know, like... So from a really, really, really young age, actually as early as I can remember, I always had this problem with my face. And it was that at any point that I was under like stress, if my heart rate was increasing, if I was doing physical exercise, if I was at a party like talking a lot, if I was nervous on a date, my face would go like blotchy red, like so bad, like a bright tomato. And that continuously happened from like, if you look at photos of me when I was like a little kid, like you can see these bright red cheeks and forehead and like upper chest area and neck on this like little kid. And obviously my parents were like, oh, it's just cute, it's all right. But it was like an actual problem. So it was only really up until around 16, 15, 17, around that age that you know, become, I guess like you start to become conscious of, you know, not problems that you might have, but areas that you're different. You know, you start to develop opinions. People start, you know, I guess bullying or comparing you to others inside of school. Like it was only up until that age that I kind of realized that this was like a problem, because a few people in school started calling it out, right? Like I'd speak in front of the whole class and my face would just go super bright red and I'd be sweating a little bit and it was like horrible. And then when people started calling it out, then it became like the worst thing, because then you're becoming super self-conscious about it.
It's worse.
And my self-esteem was just being battered down. But then at the same time, I'm trying to like grow these businesses and become independent. And I think that fueled it even as well, because I was like, all right, like screw everyone. I just want to do my own thing and just like make money and online, and I have to like worry about this, you know? So I kind of recognized that this was a bit of a problem. And then when I moved to Melbourne, and I started to, you know, become more of my own person even, right? Like I'd moved out of home. I was starting to go on dates with girls from Melbourne. I was going out, you know, drinking and partying, like enjoying life. And then also just being in an environment where I was like meeting new people. I realized like this is a really big problem that I need to resolve, because every single time that I was in any environment like that, my face would just like flush up and it would be the worst thing ever. And it got to the point that I wouldn't even be nervous about going on a date, meeting people, having a meeting. Like it got to the point that I was having Zoom meetings and the same thing was happening. I wouldn't even be nervous about any of the actual environments that I was in. I was just nervous about the way that I was going to react. So even 10 minutes before, I'm like sitting in the Uber, 10 minutes before arriving to the date, the only thing I'm thinking about is not like, oh yeah, what am I going to ask this girl? Like, you know, I trying to think about how I'm going to elevate the date. I was just super stressed about how I was going to react in that moment. So it became a real problem. I started going to a dermatologist and started to do laser treatment on my face. And what that helped with was the rosacea that I was having that was developing, which I still have a little bit, and I still like get laser treatment here and there. But what it was helping with was the rosacea that had developed, because when I would have these huge big flushes, the red blood cells in my face would expand and not retract fully. So like over time of this continuously happening, they ended up not fully going down to their like their fully like retracted position, right? They would stay a little bit diluted, and that meant that I had this continuous red flush across my face, that it was easier to trigger than ever before. So I went and I got laser treatment, and that was one big significant thing that helped, because that helped the rosacea that had developed from this problem. And then I discovered this surgery called ETS. And I'm not going to attempt what ETS stands for. I should have it in front of me. It's a long ass word, but essentially ETS is a surgery that is for people with this problem that I had, and then also for people with sweaty palms as well. So you've ever met someone, you know, you go to shake hands with them and you're like, fucking hell, their like palms super wet. You know, like they have the same problem that I had. It's just like coming off in a different way. And what it is it's your body reacting to stress in an imbalanced way. So when I was younger, I never would sweat on my stomach, on my legs, on my back. From about this point upwards, that's where my body would retract or exert the stress, right? And it was from becoming flushed and also sweating from this point upwards. I got the surgery, keyhole surgery through your two underarms. They go through your lung or around your lung.
Was this surgery. Before Gleaming though?
This is around the same time. So this is obviously been going on since I was like a young kid.
Yeah.
I got the surgery around the same time that I was really starting to get into Gleaming. And this is just why I'm obviously like so into what I do. I had a skincare brand before Gleaming, and now I've got another skincare brand. But I had the surgery, and essentially what they do is they go through and they freeze the two nerves that go up the side of your body into your neck and then around to your face as well. And they freeze them, so then it creates this balance now between the body. So now when I go and like work out, like we were working out the other day.
It's so weird.
You know, like I now don't sweat from
dripping.
Matt's like
dripping
sweat from his head, and I'm like, it's like dry, you know.
I want to get that. That's like a good thing.
It's
is it bad if you don't have the base problem? Is it?
I'm not sure. It's actually quite a scary surgery. There were some groups on Facebook about people that had it and it had gone wrong.
And
so like,
what could have happened?
Like the symptoms came back even worse, you know, because the way they used to do the surgery is they used to deflate the lung and then do the nerve, because the nerve is inside of the lung. So they used to deflate the lung, but now with keyhole surgery,
Makes you feel weird.
They can work around it.
How do they do it to you though?
Keyhole surgery, they didn't have to deflate the lung for about 2 weeks after. My whole chest area was super tight. Like I'd just gone for like the hardest bench press session of my entire life. Yeah, I got 2 scars right there. And it was the best thing that I've ever done. Yeah, best moment of my life. Yeah, because like from that point onwards, I was like, okay, now I can finally lean into like being the person that I want to be. I can finally start pushing business and going on like big trips and meetings.
Did it literally overnight go?
Yeah.
I don't even remember you having a rosy face.
No one does. That's the thing. But it is. I
thought I used to have a rosy face. I mean, I definitely did. Maybe not to that extent.
Yeah.
I've never had surgery.
Yeah, you always ask people, and they're like, "Oh, like I never noticed that." But like, it's one of those things that you notice yourself.
You definitely don't have it now. So.
No. It's chill. It's really good now. Like I could still drink alcohol and get like a little bit flushed. Like I'm a white guy from New Zealand, right? It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Got a bit of Scandinavian inside of me, so you know nothing can resolve that. But it was the best moment of my life, and that. One of the best moments of my life, and that there just kind of like allowed me to push so much harder into the areas that I was going into. So, you know, start to build Gleaming, go overseas, meet people that I'm working with, like have sit down meetings and have serious conversations, have, you know, long Zoom meetings that I didn't have to worry about this, go on dates, start to meet like girls that I actually wanted to meet with without having this idea of this problem. What are they going to think of me because of my red face? Like, it was the best thing. I think that was like the catapult, you know, for my own self-esteem and the way that I feel about myself. And that allowed me to, I think, achieve so many things just because I now didn't have this thing that was like weighing me down so much.
And that was also the primary purpose for Gleaming. That was the reason you started it, because you... So... is that the reason you started it? I guess
Gleaming's not a brand focused on rosacea or focused on people with a specific problem. Gleaming, we focus on hyperpigmentation, which is the darkening of the pigment of the skin due to many problems.
Do you think your problem is what got you interested in that?
Very much so. Yeah,
broadly?
Of course. Very much so. So because I had this whole journey myself, and I was just so interested because, of course, like when you have this problem with your face, the first thing you're going to be looking up is topical treatments. You know, like treatments for rosacea. Therefore, you're now looking at products, ingredients for rosacea. You're now looking at like ingredients. You're trying to dissect what ingredients, find what products going into them, and I just naturally kind of gravitated towards the industry, and then obviously at the same time, trying to chase this idea of like independence and building something huge that I can just like sink my teeth into and grow and see through right to the end. It's kind of those two things coming together, and Gleaming started from me noticing an opportunity on YouTube where a lot of people were making DIY turmeric and aloe vera masks for hyperpigmentation. Because hyperpigmentation, just like rosacea, just like what I had, is a skin concern that it's not your face going red, but it's your face and other areas of your body potentially continuously having a dark mark on it. And that also, just like rosacea did for me, that also impacts people's self-esteem as well. And at the time that I discovered this ingredient combination that people were making DIY masks for, and no one had properly commercialized it, I realized that hyperpigmentation was not an area that in the skincare industry had been focused on enough. And I saw the opportunity, and I kind of just like jumped at both of those two things together. So I saw, you know, turmeric and aloe vera was a great combination for dealing with hyperpigmentation. No one had commercialized it. There's a lot of problems with doing DIY formulas. You know, if you use the wrong type of turmeric, if you use the wrong type of aloe vera, you can have a skin reaction. You can stain your face as well. So it's not the most recommended. Also, you end up with a heap of waste of product as well. Like, yeah, it's cheaper for sure, like for one unit, but then you're buying, like, think about how much turmeric you're going to buy, how much aloe vera you're going to buy. You know, you're going to go out of your way to buy that. People on convenience. So I realized there's an opportunity here to commercialize this ingredient combination.
How long did it take to go from idea, which is what plenty of people can have, but then they get stuck with the execution? Obviously, you had the experience and some cash. How long did it take to go from idea to launch? And when did you launch?
We launched
Because obviously you're still running now. So
March 2019, we launched.
Pretty much bang on 4 years ago. Because I remember being in Tokyo with you in November 19, which was the biggest fucking stand of my life. And you telling
biggest
me how
night of my life as well.
Circa 6 months had gone.
Rugby World Cup final. 2019.
Yeah, in Tokyo.
England, South Africa.
Yeah, fuck. Time flies.
England beat South Africa. England beat All Blacks in the semi-final. South Africa won the final after losing to New Zealand in the group stages.
Christ, I could not see during that match.
Yeah.
But
I was supporting England. I had the England face paint on and the
because I launched
bandana.
Midnight City pretty similar time. I mean, I was never as passionate about that, and I think that was evident from the start. But I remember us comparing notes because it was similar in the sense we've both done general dropshipping, made a bit of money.
We've had similar lives in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
you know? Both were going through a pretty intense breakup at the same time as well.
Fuck. Yeah,
both had brands that. Like Gleaming went through its struggles, you know, like we've had to execute a whole turnaround, which I can talk about a bit, like, and obviously at the same time, I think you were having the problems with the Neon Beach as well, similar-ish time. So we've had, you know, there's some.
You're still going. That brand's still going.
Still treading on.
So idea to launch. Just quickly, how does that look? Because I think I've spoke about it for my own brand now. What do you do? You know, I guess you've never been in that space. Well, you had kind of with Stefan, you mentioned.
Yeah. With the vitamin C brand.
How long did it
China.
take to develop V1 of the face mask? Because I know that was your hero product.
Probably nine months, I think.
Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, it takes time because you've got to do stability testing, preservative testing to make sure the formula is okay to be able to send it. And this is stuff that I had learned from the manufacturer. So, you know, I had this idea in front of me, and I started to search up for natural skincare manufacturers in Australia at the time, because I was like, okay, I'm going to launch this product in Australia. So I looked for an Australian manufacturer, and I found one based out of Newcastle, Australia, and their CEO was so kind and helped a lot through the whole process. You know, helped me and worked with me to put the formula together, like the final formula, obviously. Cheers. Like I had my idea, but you know, every formula has a few filler ingredients. You've got a preservative system in there, so he helped me put that together. Obviously, just because he's got that experience in skincare, and then we were able to launch it. I would say within about 9 months, which is relatively quick in the space of product development in skincare. Like any formula we develop these days, we give ourselves 12. We give the company 12 months to launch it. You know, like idea today. If we move into testing today, 12 months from now, that's like when we can expect it to go.
How much do you reckon it costs, roughly?
To do that?
Because a lot of people will wonder that.
Yeah, sure.
They want to build a brand, cosmetic space, fully bespoke formula, obviously.
The formulation might have only been like 1 or 2K, I think. You know, a lot of contract manufacturers, if you develop with them, they'll actually do it for free because you're going to manufacture with them.
I guess the main cost is in minimums of the first order, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which is the same for me.
And right from the start, like, I mean, we can go into the launch, but within 4 days, right, we sold out. And then I realized I needed more inventory, and I ordered more inventory, and I sold out of that as well.
How much did you have to start with, and how much did
I think it was like 500 units, like literally like 500
pretty small,
units. Yeah, pretty small. Of course, small scale. And then just trying to obviously fight demand for like the first year or 2 years. And
but I guess just before we jump into 2 years, how quickly did you? Because I guess when you launch anything new, you know, you obviously have a conviction in it as a founder, but until you've sold anything, certainly until you've got like at least a few months, like how quickly did you think, oh fuck, this is working?
Great question. That's actually such a good story as well. So Gleaming was originally launched under a different brand name called Seed and Sour in Australia.
Oh shit, okay. Yeah. I actually didn't know that.
And it was the same product, but it was in Australia. And the problem with Seed and Sour was it's a horrible brand name, first of all. Hard to say. And it was too similar to another skincare brand in Australia scaling at the same time. And because obviously I was like, when you're starting to go into industry, you're like, what's working for other people? Okay, there's that brand name. I'm going to make something similar, you know? So launched it in Australia.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty similar.
Didn't do too well. Yeah. Didn't do too well. I think just the marketing wasn't on point. Like I didn't put the right videos in place. And then I decided to push it over to the USA and test out the United States market. So I sent the product over to an influencer in the US, and I had them make a 5-day Gleaming video. So they would use the mask on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and they would document their journey. And that was the first influencer, because the other ads that we made in Australia were like, you know, standard ads, maybe image ads.
Who were you using though? Because I know you focused on black women.
Yes, of course.
Was that always the case? Or was that you realised that was? I remember you mentioning maybe ages ago that you realised that was like a sub niche of customers that seemed most passionate, and then you pivoted towards focusing on them.
Because the product focuses so much on hyperpigmentation. When you're starting a company, obviously you need to understand like who are going to be the customers that most need this product, right? Yeah. And all of the videos that were people making DIY masks of turmeric and aloe vera, that I obviously had that original idea from, were African American, Hispanic, and Asian women typically, because people of color and the skin concern that they mostly deal with, which is hyperpigmentation, was the area that I didn't feel had been, had been given enough attention in the industry right from the start, right? And as soon as we pushed it over to America, and of course, like sending it over to influencers in America, you want to have a wide range of ethnicities in those influencers. The first few videos that we had were African-American women, and then we obviously then started to expand to try to become the accessible authority brand for hyperpigmentation, which everyone suffers from, like I could suffer from hyperpigmentation one day. It's just that the people who deal with hyperpigmentation the most and it affects them most are typically those with more melanin in their skin. So they've got darker pigment, meaning obviously people of color, right? So we send the product out. We got a bunch of videos over, and then there was the first ad that we got through, the first influencer video that we got back was from an influencer, and she did a 5-day transformation with Gleaming, and you could see after 5 days, her hyperpigmentation had brightened slightly, so it started to diminish, and her texture had improved, and her skin was brighter. So the things that, you know, people who deal with hyperpigmentation are most searching for in a product for their face, like those things we had been able to help with, right? So turned that influencer video, which would have been like 15, 20 minutes, turned it into a 30-second ad, used those same strategies that I originally learned in dropshipping, obviously, like talking about the problem, presenting the solution, talking about the unique selling points of the solution, which was our vitamin C trio that we've got in Australia, the turmeric and aloe vera combination, and then the base, the foundation of the formula, which was the clay, you know, wrapping that all up in a 30-second video and presenting it, you know, to obviously people on Facebook. And the first day we launched into America was the day that I knew that I was onto something for sure. Like I remember going to the gym with Tim, and I think I had my Shopify notifications on, and I think we had a really low budget, maybe like $50 a day, but it was like, you know, sale, cha-ching, cha-ching. And that's when you know, like, you know, when you know. right? It's like back in the day when you
Why
did
and when
dropshipping.
did you decide to focus on the US over Australia?
It just wasn't working in Australia. I think that comes down to me not having the right strategy with the ads that I was executing. You know, there's a funny thing with Australia. It's really hard. I mean, High Smile have cracked it, but it's really hard to get people in Australia to create product focused videos. You know, just from what I've seen with the climate, like people in America, in New York and LA especially, are much more used to creating, you know, videos that they're showcasing a product, they're talking about the benefits, just because I think it comes more naturally because there's a larger like film industry over there maybe.
It's also really hard to get an Australian girl to go on a date with you when you're not Australian.
That was the pre-podcast chats. Maybe tonight, mate, we'll have to see. But yeah, maybe that was like something that assisted, right? So the moment that we launched to Australia, I knew I was on, and I was like, okay,
America, you mean?
I need to lean into this. I need to change the name. Sorry, America. I mean, I need to change the name because I was like, I'm not happy with this name. You know, it's too close to what was already being launched.
How much time had you gone from live to? Did you stop and relaunch? You just changed the name overnight?
No, obviously that took like months, like 3 months, obviously, because I had to change the packaging.
Yeah.
I changed the name, the whole website, like everything. You know, I think because I had validated the product and the market, I then realized I need to take this a whole lot more seriously, and I need to really think long term about this, because obviously like the decisions you make with brand name and the direction of the brand is something that's going to be so long standing with the brand, with the company. So I needed to be really like calculated with those decisions.
It's a much better name.
Yeah, Gleaming's it's an awesome name. It literally means to shine bright. Literally, to shine bright in your own self as well. To like have an aura about you, and it just works perfectly for the products that we provide, and like, you know, our approach to positioning on the market for sure. Yeah.
So, Gleaming, focusing on America.
Mm-hmm.
What did the first year look like broadly? Where were you based?
Melbourne.
How was the team?
Mm-hmm.
How quick was everything? I mean, you've done it before, so it was always
kind of
good.
Not on the same level though, and not with like a brand that I can see myself building for the next 5 to 10 years. You know, like this year I was taking a whole lot more seriously. So I realized that there was product market fit with Gleaming. Changed the brand. Then I realized I needed cash. So I actually ended up selling all of my properties at the time to my accountant, who was helping me manage the finances of the company that had the properties, just because they were positively geared, right? They were making like 800 to $1,000 per week, like net profit. So I called up, his name's Jono, and I said, hey, I need to sell all these properties because I need the cash, because I've got this opportunity in front of me with this brand. What do you think I can do? Like, what's the path? And he said, me and my business partner can buy them from you. And within 2 weeks, I don't think I made $1 of profit off the properties in terms of like the sale price. So there was no like capital gains or anything like that. But he was able to help me pull my cash out of, you know, that portfolio, and essentially he just bought the whole portfolio from me, like within a week, because he knew all the numbers, right? He had seen it from the start to the point that it was at. So there was no like due diligence needed, no questions needed. Like, he knew everything because he was my accountant at the time for all of my companies. So
you sold that, kept the gym.
Sold that, kept the gym. Obviously can't move out of the gym as fast and as flexible as the properties. I mean, at the time, still have the gym today. And then I used that cash to fund the growth in Gleaming. And it was a double-edged sword, you know, like I had about $500,000 liquid in the bank when I started Gleaming. That's an NZD, so about 300K US. And that was great. Obviously, I had cash to scale. I tested out this marketing strategy. It's a
double-edged sword.
But it was a double-edged sword because I did not learn proper cash management strategies, you know. It basically felt like I had unlimited cash, and I had the mindset going into the first year, the first 2, the first 3 years, of the brand.
You come from that quick
that
drop
I'm like,
money.
exactly that. I'm like, okay, because I think you see a lot of stories online, and you're like, okay, you can run unprofitably for, you know, so many years, and then you can just sell. And it's like thrown around so loosely, and it sounds so easy. So I wasn't focused on being extremely profitable from the start. Like, I was bleeding money in unnecessary press. Like I remember someday I put like 25 grand US into like some 3 or 4 magazine features because I was like, oh, we need to position ourselves amongst those magazines. We hadn't even learned our own positioning yet as a brand. You know, we were only like months in. You know, like at that time, obviously you should be taking a much different approach. You should be much more calculated with your cash because you don't want to waste money on a press feature that might not be relevant to your actual brand when you really decide who you are or really find out who you are. So I just had this mind. I just don't think I had a conservative enough mindset, and then that there bled into so many other problems that we had after like year 2, year 3, because I continued that mindset through, and I continued it through even in the times that we started to really struggle, which is when COVID hit, supply chain prices went up. We were still manufacturing in Australia, and and had a lot of problems with the team as well. So when times got tough, I didn't have the right mindset to be able to manage that.
There was like a fucking PR disaster with one of the team members.
Yeah, that was messy. That was a contract that we brought on, and she essentially used
all the attributes perfect for press. Like it so
it was
bad.
just an attempt of a cancellation of the brand and of myself. Like I got death threats personally overnight. I woke up and I like rolled over in the morning and I looked at my Instagram and I like had these messages and I was like, what's going on? And like straight away got on to call with the team and realize what had happened, and you know, ex-contractor had just like built up this whole big story about us and tried to present it to her Instagram following, and then all of her Instagram following just like came at me and the brand, and that obviously had a huge impact on like myself personally, because I was like, what am I doing here? Like, should I stop this? Am I doing the wrong thing? Okay, I know I need to listen to our customers. I need to listen to this community. But ultimately it was just an attempt of a cancellation of the brand, which didn't work because we're still here and still pushing and doing better than ever right now.
So
but
4
anyway,
years.
We can go back, yeah.
Headline, like how has growth looked? 19, 20, 21, 22. Has it been straight line up? Has it been broadly up with challenges? Like, how would you describe it?
Straight line up and then a flat line for 3 years. So first year we did a few mil. I remember maybe not a few mil, maybe 1 or 2 mil. The second and third year, I think we've been around 5 years now. The first year was March 19, 4 years. 22, yeah, okay, 4 years. Okay, so the first year was probably around like, you know, a mil, maybe 1 or 2 mil, obviously, because you've got a huge Black Friday period, and that came at the end of the year, and I was able to solve some stock problems before then. The second year, I believe, was about 7. The third year was about 8, and then now we're obviously into the fourth year of the company, and we're actually on track to like properly grow this year. So it was a strong flat line for a while, and that was obviously like while we were dealing with all of the problems, right? So
what do you think you'll do this year?
So yeah,
what's the plan?
This year maybe about 13, 14.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so good solid growth. And like it's just because now everything's much tighter than what it used to be.
Because you're
right?
experienced.
We're manufacturing in the USA now. Gross margins are much better. We understand who we are. We've got stronger positioning in the market. We've got way better, way stronger, you know, partners that we're working with and a team that we're working with. You know, stronger focus in all areas of the company. Like, it feels like now we're just starting as a company, to be honest, because we've just had 3 years of like turmoil, and I feel like in the last 3 years we've just been running around like headless chickens, just figuring out like who we are as a brand, what are we doing, you know, where are we manufacturing, what products are we developing, just like all of those questions in the last 3 years that we've had, that we've been running around and spending money on to answer. I feel like now like we have a grip on those questions, and we really understand like where we're going now as a company.
Definitely. Drink some of that. I'm going to speak. I definitely know what you mean by you feel like you're just getting started, because I think when you're in your early 20s or even teenage years, like you were, you think, and I was the same, and I've documented this on this pod, you know, I want to be retired by 25 and then I'm done. But then you realize it's like the Dunning-Kruger curve or whatever, I think it's called that, where you think you know everything when you know nothing. Then when you actually know a lot more, you realize you know nothing. So it's like mid-20s, whatever it is.
Yeah, so true.
Mid to late 20s, even though you've got a solid 6-7 years of experience under your belt, you realize actually you're just fucking getting started. And the people you look up to have been doing it 40 years or 50 years or at least like 10 years just to even be remotely good at something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just start to look at everything
Takes a long time.
more longer term. And it's so clear when I speak to certain people or listen to certain people on social media that if they've gone through that like maturity phase of realizing they know nothing, or if they're still in that delusion phase of they've been dropshipping for 6 months and they think they're the next Elon Musk.
Yeah,
They haven't had the first
yeah,
L.
exactly.
They haven't been through any times of global, I don't know, recession or not fucking prime econ boom like 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
And it's just so evident. They're still fucking flexing pictures of their Cartier watch, which we've all done, whether it's a fucking Rolex or anything else.
Cartier,
I very much did that. But yeah, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And it's, so it feels like day one.
It does.
I think when you've been through the trenches for, like I said, 6-7 years, and you're definitely getting good, but you realise it's just the fucking start.
Yeah.
But you said there was a lot of challenges though. What were those? What was the main thing you learned from those?
So I think it all stemmed from not having proper cash management right at the start, not having proper cash management, and then also not having proper supply chain systems, I guess systems and processes throughout the whole company, because that set us up in two ways. So number one, like we were overbuying inventory, right? So we were over leveraged on that side. We had far too much cash tied up in inventory. So therefore, if we entered a downturn where we needed to still pay, invoices from the previous 2-3 months, that there obviously impacted that, because we weren't able to like liquidate the inventory very fast. And then also the supply chain side as well, because that I guess turns into it, right? Like we didn't have the ability to project our inventory correctly, and we didn't have, tight projections with what we're actually going to do over the next 3 to 6 months. So like I said before, I think we were just like running around like headless chickens, and then not having proper cash management, not having proper accounting systems. Like the accountants that I've worked with, they just haven't been super tight on processes in terms of reconciling, certain transactions or bills in given months. Therefore, I'll look at a month and I'll be like, oh yeah, we've done that amount of profit, but actually in reality, they haven't added a $50,000 bill. So I wasn't super tight in that area. So massive mistakes in those spaces, and I think that they're like it allowed all of these other problems to become, or like problems that could have been small things, it allowed them to become much larger problems than what they probably needed to be. So for example, when COVID hit, right, and supply chain prices went way up, our gross margins were extremely squeezed, and I didn't recognize that on the P&L. So we continued to spend on Facebook like we were normally spending. We continued on our CPA targets like we typically had. And I didn't see the gross margin changing in the company just because our books weren't fully accurate. And that there in itself created such a huge problem, because we went from being, profitable to like somewhat profitable for a few months to being like really, really unprofitable as a company. And at the same time, like I should have moved manufacturing earlier over to the United States, because that was where 90% of our customers were. And I attempted it, and the manufacturer that we worked with at the time just didn't hit the mark on the mask. They couldn't do it, and I think I just gave up on the project. So like that was another huge mistake, which also meant that gross margins were squeezed even further, because we continued to manufacture in another country than we were warehousing. We hired a heap of employees. That was a massive one as well. And we hired about 10 to 11 employees at one point, and there wasn't, there just wasn't like proper projections put in place where we could like calculate if we actually needed this employee. We were really inflated in that way. And then we had a lot of cultural problems, because personally I just didn't understand how to manage a team. I was far too friendly with our employees.
Just saying that off camera.
And I didn't have anyone in the organization who was the other side of it that could be that like harsh, director in the organization that would be able to call out employees on their bullshit. So
Quick one, fellas. You probably heard a few months ago I dropped an ecom course, a very fucking guru of me, but it's not that. I promise you, 0 to 1, how to start a brand from scratch with no budget, some budget, a bit of budget. Take your idea from a bedroom to reality to potentially 7-8 figures in sales, like I've done a few times, based on my 7 years of experience in the trenches and my current experience building my current brand, Space Goods. It's no bullshit, no frills. We've had like 75 people go through so far. Not a single person has asked for a refund. Plenty of people have actually built some seriously impressive shit. Covers every aspect of the business, not just the front end stuff like most gurus on YouTube and Twitter are talking about, not just product, marketing, all that shit, but the real shit, the logistics, the back end, the supply chain, the customer service, the finances as well. This covers the whole spectrum, every part, 12 hours of video. If you're interested in scaling a brand 0 to 1, actually turning your idea finally into a reality, then click the link below, go check out Learn Real Commerce course and let me know what you think. I'll be glad to have you in there. Let's fucking go. Right, quick wine break as always. Team, big problems. You've never, no experience managing a team, which no fucking young founders have until they do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was just the perfect storm, you know. And then also at the same time, we started to take debt out as well, because I started to experience
start getting access to a lot
cash flow restraints. Right? We had offers from all of these different lenders as well, and you know they seemed like low. You know, they seemed like low interest rates, like they seemed affordable. And at the same time, it was just the, you know, kind of reiterating what I was saying before as well, like we just didn't have the right systems in place for us to be able to project and, project project our future cash flow to be able to decide, like, is this the right move, taking on this debt at the time? Colin, who, you know, is the founder of Boomin, who's a strategic partner of ours. One of the big things that he says is, you know, don't try to fix debt with debt, and that was exactly what we did.
That's literally what happened with me and
yeah, Beach. It's and I've seen it a lot, and I think a lot of lenders, well, actually not, I think I know like a lot of lenders these days are tightening up a whole lot because there are so many founders that have
rates have gone through the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
In the past year.
You see Clearco like struggling
they've gone,
as well.
Pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. All of them I feel like will be gone soon, to be honest, like, or at least there'll be a few like last standing ones still offering unsecured to like extremely you know, credible brands and brands with like a long history of paying back debt.
Capital was so easily available in 2020, 21.
Exactly.
I took on fucking Clearco, Wayflyer.
Exactly.
Because we had crazy revenues.
Exactly.
But I didn't have the advice.
Exactly.
I'm sure you probably didn't at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was a problem that we had alongside everything else. So it was just a multitude of things. That was a problem that we had that obviously a lot of brands, other brands have also had, and that's why a lot of these like unsecured lenders are closing shop, you know, these days, because so many companies that have taken debt out can't pay them back. They're unsecured, so there's actually literally nothing that they can do.
Based on 1% of people not paying back.
Yeah.
And then 3% can't.
Yeah.
They're fucked.
Yeah, exactly. So and there's nothing they can do.
Effect.
You know, if you're unsecured, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing they can do about it unless there's like a lien in place on the company. That's been an area that like I've learned a lot about in the last couple years. You know, that's super beneficial now moving forward, like as a company. And again, it's just the same thing I was talking about before. Like I just feel like we're on another level now, where we just understand all of these other areas of the company. That it's just maturity in all areas of the company.
Whatever.
Exactly.
How did you fix that? So you mentioned Boomin. I know they came in some capacity. All these problems.
Yeah.
When do you realize there's a problem that might need fixing, and how do you fix it?
Yeah, of course. So around 1.5 years ago, I realized that we need to execute a company turnaround. So we were like dying. Like we were bleeding really, really bad. We were unprofitable, probably losing 50 to 100K plus per month.
Fuck. Like
really bad. Our balance sheet was flipped up the wrong way, right? So we had taken on this debt as well that obviously then brought up our liabilities, flipped it up the incorrect way. And we were in essentially a position that I had to execute a company turnaround. Otherwise, we were just going to have to liquidate and stop the company. It was like the scariest position ever. And also at the same time, I was going through like a pretty intense breakup, which I think that like relationship like took a lot of attention away from me as well. And like, you know, it is what it is. It's ultimately like my fault with all of that. But that situation that I was in took a lot of my attention away, where I couldn't like focus on resolving a lot of the problems that we had internally. So anyway, we got to the point that we were having to execute this company turnaround, and I started to take on advice from my two mentors, Colin and Mirtab, both like absolute legends, love them both, and decided to let my whole team go. So I had about 12 employees at the time. Within a week, we got down to 2. So we kept on one proper employee. The rest were contractors. And then we entered into a strategic partnership with Boomin, and obviously they've been amazing, and we've got a really, really, great relationship with him. Colin, I've known him for 4 to 5 years. He's one of my best friends. He's one of my mentors in business, an incredible guy.
I know
as
Colin,
well. So
not as well as you.
Yeah, Matt knows Colin. So we entered into that. That was part of the turnaround. The first kind of 6 months, the first 6 to 8 months of the turnaround was completely focused on the P&L. So it was
they invested in the brand or not?
Yeah. So we have a revenue share, equity deal, really like tied in with each other.
So was the cash that they put in what stopped the business going fucked?
Not at all. So actually the investment was part of a rev share equity deal. I can't talk about it too much, but essentially there was no cash up front, but it was earned over like a certain period of time, if you know what I mean. And that essentially just gave us horsepower. And I think the biggest thing was because Colin's been my mentor for like 4 to 5 years, we just realized that there's so much synergy between the two companies. Like we're implementing this system with our company, and I'm hiring one person on it with a 100K salary running the system, and they're running this system, but I've got it for multiple brands, and it's running much more efficient, and they have a much better hiring process to find someone to run their system. And we just realized there's an opportunity here for us to plug in together and to really grow this thing. So that was a huge help. That wasn't the only thing that we did throughout the turnaround, but that was a big thing that helped the P&L, the profit and loss statement turnaround. And then a bunch of other things, obviously, like improving gross margin, moving manufacturing to the United States, finding a new freight forwarding partner as well, finding new warehouses. So like every part of the company that could be dissected, all that impacted the P&L was being torn down, and I basically had to rebuild that. So the last 2 years or last year and a half has just been me building every little part of the company from the ground up.
I mean, founders as well. Like I've been through it, as everyone knows. There's very few people at a young age that have been through like stress like that. I think it's invaluable.
It was intense.
I refer to the period that I didn't come out as well as you, but it was like a real life MBA. Yeah. Obviously I started again and whatever, the silver linings and shit. But when you're 60 years old, you probably credit that as being the most important period ever, because it made you a fucking savage, and B, just better at business. Because everyone like the dropshipping space, because it's like kind of a real business but not really, don't really deal with these problems. And when you deal with fucking problems, don't know, you just get better at weathering the storm. Because entrepreneurship is the most brutal thing in the world. Everyone frames it as being this Lambos and hoes or whatever it is. And it's just such bollocks.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just guru trying to sell you a course.
Exactly.
If you're building an actual real business, it's just, especially when shit goes wrong or becomes difficult. Yeah, it's fucking rough.
Yeah, the biggest thing is just and it's so cliche, is just like literally not seeing the option to give up the brand, and just to continue to weather the storm and work through it and figure out what we need to do to get to tomorrow, and that was like 1.5 years or 2 years of just straight turmoil. It was horrible. Like every little part of the company had to be flipped upside down and rebuilt, but yeah, this is like the real kind of side of business, when it gets tough, essentially.
Yeah, so everyone wants to talk about it and say they're an entrepreneur when shit's going well. No one wants to talk about it or say they're an entrepreneur when shit goes bad.
Exactly.
Or at least no one's willing to admit it, so we don't know shit's going bad.
And I'm so thankful for the whole thing as well. Like it's exactly what this whole turnaround is, exactly what I needed as a founder and a CEO. Like just my perspective on decisions now, but my perspective on areas of the business that then obviously impacts every day-to-day decision that I'm making in the company now has like changed completely.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Prior to this, I feel like every decision that I was making was uncalculated. Obviously, at the time, it was what I thought was right for the company, but like I said before, it wasn't calculated. Like we weren't being intentional with every little thing that we were doing, and now like every decision that we make is being extremely intentional, calculated. How's this going to impact the P&L? How's this going to impact obviously the balance sheet? Is this true to our mission as a company? Is this serving our customers correctly? Like all of those things have just been tightened up so much, and it's so easy to like throw those words around, right, for people to say that they're doing it, but like
unless you have to do it, it's hard to do it. I would definitely say, and people have said it to me that have invested in me and the brand, that if you've been through shit like that and come out the other side, that makes you way stronger than someone that hasn't and just has always had it good. That's not to say people that have never been through problems aren't good. No. But I think you're stronger if you have.
Yeah. You're thankful for it.
I guess I would say that, but I think it's true because, I don't know, it's like the fucking warrior side of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said before, I'm thankful for it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy story to tell and talk about. And like, I think we're just at the day now, like because of that, I think we're at day one now still.
Yeah.
Like we're only just really getting ramped up. We only understand who we are now, I think, as a brand.
And 4 years in, day one, what is your vision for Gleaming? Where do you want to go on a broader scale? But then the next few years, what do you think that looks like?
Of course. So D2C is growing well right now. I feel like we've got the team, all of the systems in place right now to be able to like really scale that up to like significant numbers. And then obviously retail is an area that we're moving into right now as well. So, and we do quite well on Amazon as well. Second top selling clay mask on Amazon behind Aztec. And then
on Amazon US,
and then number 11 or 14 when we actually do have stock on Amazon, 11 or 14 for face masks as a whole as well. So that's like that's really strong. Amazon does well for us, and then now I think the next channel that we really need to go into is retail. So that's a huge focus for us. We've got a rebrand launching in January that I can't share too much about, but it's super exciting. It's just like, again, part of the whole turnaround. This is kind of the
same name, just a refresh though.
Same name, just a refresh. Yeah. It's just, again, tightening up the hatches. Everything we've been doing over the last year and a half has been on the back end, right? Like, like I mentioned, all of our restructuring of our systems and processes, cash flow, supply chain, product manufacturing, gross margins, net margin, software, web, all of those things, team. And then now the rebrand, I think, is like the final step of that, where it's actually the customer facing side of the rebrand that we're tightening up our positioning on the market. We understand who we are. We understand how we're going to serve our customers better. Obviously what products that then creates. We've moved manufacturing now, just not for the vitamin C clay mask over to the States, but all of the other products as well. So that's given us the opportunity to actually rebrand them. And that launches in January next year. So like, that's what I'm working towards right now. Like super excited for it. It's it's Amazon growing that. It's retail and expansion into other markets internationally as well. So now it's just like doing all the fundamentals, I think, of what, a growing brand should do, and not getting distracted by these like golden nuggets out there, these golden areas of opportunity, these new softwares that you can implement. These new agencies that you should bring on board.
You say it's your first podcast, but you're fucking good at podcasts. I'd have to speak. I'd have to speak. Is there an end goal here? Or have you got to the point where you found the vehicle that you enjoy driving, so to speak, and you just want to keep fucking playing it? Is there an exit plan? Is there...
Yeah,
I know you used to speak about that more. And by the way, so did I. And so does everyone when they're a bit younger. Yeah, because they get obsessed with the idea of... Everyone says 100 mil.
Yeah.
And those people haven't even made... 100 grand yet, which is fine, but it's funny to look back on that naivety with a bit more maturity and experience. Like, is there an end goal?
For sure. I mean, everyone throws around the idea. I say this a lot. Like, everyone throws around the idea of the exit so lightly. And your mate Jimmy, I think,
he's probably the most similar to you in terms of industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and for him, it took 8 to 10 years, right? And he was able to sell the company, but I think people throw around the idea of exit like far too lightly.
Like a dropshipping store selling is not quite the same.
Because you've got so many variables in it, right? Like what is happening in the industry, what's happening in just the climate of of acquisitions, or just the economy in general in the market that you're playing in. You know, like those are three big, huge variables that you have to be, I guess, like you have to be timed up with so perfectly as well. And then it's going to take, 2 years for that even to happen once you even get to the point. So like right now, essentially, I'm just focused on building the most well-oiled machine that I could, and focusing on the key things like gross margin and net margin, and building like a beautifully run company that we're creating a massive positive impact for our customers, and being that brand for, hyperpigmentation for a skin concern that hasn't been focused enough in the industry. And that's kind of like the main focus right now. But of course, like whatever comes from that, like we'll see. But I don't want to look like too far forward right now. But of course, like if that ever was to happen and present itself, and of course, like right now, I'm making certain connections to have those conversations at a later stage as well. But like right now, I've got a big path ahead of me for the rebrand, for executing that correctly, for diving into these other channels as well. That you can't look like too far beyond that right now. So it's there. Like it's a.
Is there a number in mind? Revenue, exit, anything, or do you don't care about that? As in right now, don't care about that. Don't think about it.
Yeah. No, not really.
I know you used to tell me about Drunk Elephant, $800 and something million.
It's a funny thing in the beauty industry. You notice a lot of brands that get to like $50 million plus.
Hero Cosmetics was a recent one as well.
Yeah, Hero
600
Cosmetics
and something.
Yeah. So we're a
Which
lot of
is
beauty
obviously
brands,
fat.
when they get to like 60 million, 50 million, $60 million a year plus in revenue, they start to sell for multiples of revenue.
100%.
Which is just like,
that's the category you want to be in.
Yeah, exactly.
as a
Which is bananas. So you kind of have to decide, like, what path do you want to take? Do you want to go to the point that you're doing 20 to 30 million a year with maybe like 10 to 15% EBITDA, and then start searching for a buyer? Or do you really, continue to grow and then try to partner up with one of the big conglomerates in the space? Because personally, like Gleaming, I think Gleaming can become a household name and the authority, or the approachable and the approachable brand for hyperpigmentation, for sure. Like I think that can happen, right? And whether it's going to be us doing it internally or us working with a partner or like a conglomerate in the space to do it, then like we'll see. But right now I'm just focused on implementing everything that I've set out in the last like few months.
I guess you are only
sure.
24. That's fucking hell. Got some time.
Exactly.
Some time.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to take 10 years. 8 to 10 years,
6 more years.
Yeah.
You'll still be young.
Yeah, because we've had all these problems today, and like, who knows, maybe in like 2.5 years' time, with another year of turmoil,
There's always turmoil.
Like, you don't know what's ahead of you.
At least I'm not the only one, because I feel like it's always fucking turmoil.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just constantly stressed. There's always a
always
specific problem in my head. There's one major problem that needs to be fixed.
Exactly.
It's always like that.
Yeah, exactly.
3 bits of advice to your 18-year-old self, or in your case, maybe 14-year-old self or 16-year-old self, upon reflection, because I think it's probably putting you on the spot. But you'll give a good answer. That's what I ask every guest.
Yeah, for sure. I would say to be like, think long term with what you're doing. Don't make a lot of short term decisions in terms of where you're putting your cash. Like, just try to be as intentional and calculated as possible. Be extremely careful with who you hang out with in your life and who you bring into your life.
I literally said this
as
same
well.
Shit.
Like, you don't realize the impact that they have as well, the people that you surround yourself with. And I mean, in that same point, like, put yourself first always. Like, too many people are just trying to please others. I think, like, please people in their group. Maybe they really want to work on a Friday night, but their group wants to come out and party on that night. Like, if you've got something to do and you really want to do it, like, just say fucking no. Like, do it. Just get the shit done. And then third point right now would be to don't.
That was
just,
3. Give
that was
a
3. Well,
I think it was 3.
that last point was kind of part of that second. I would say the third point, and actually I think is the most significant, to be honest, is even though we've obviously just had this whole conversation about business, I think business is literally, or this path of entrepreneurship is like one pillar of life, and the way, and you really should be looking at all of your areas / pillars of life and trying to evolve those. You know, like entrepreneur and the money game is one side of that. But
health, wealth, love, and happiness.
You should be looking at all areas because it all comes together. And people who focus too much on business and they just put all their time and attention towards that, and they don't focus on keeping themselves in shape, going to the gym, you know, like being social with, or saying sorry, focusing on their I guess personal happiness, like with their social environment as well, focusing on their relationship with their family or with their friends. I think that there will eventually be quite detrimental to, you know, someone's self. So I think it's extremely important to focus on life as a set of pillars, mental health as well, spirituality, really just try to be holistic about the whole approach. You know, it's definitely an area that I've like dove into in the last, I'd say like 12 months, like 1 to 2 years as well. And I think I wish it was an area that I like stepped into, you know, on a much deeper level, much earlier on as well, even though I'm only 24 right now, but still, you know, I think you want to be really holistic in your approach about life and not just focus on business as well.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think on that bombshell,
yeah,
we'll wrap up the episode. We could go for 3 hours. We could go for 4 hours. We probably will continue to go off camera. It's been a pleasure. Your first pod. I think very fucking well done on the first pod.
Cheers, mate. Throat's a little bit
I barely had to speak. Episode 70.
Maybe that's a problem.
As always, subscribe to the pod. We're actually being pretty fucking consistent recently. Episode 70. That's kind of mad. It's like 18 months. Subscribe to the pod. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers for watching.
Cheers, guys.
Boom.